Dear Diary, Happy New Year, or as I now call it, Happy New Interrogation Season. I have not finished unwrapping the chin-chin from Mama's Christmas plate. And already, Auntie Ngozi is standing in front of me like a customs officer at the airport, arms folded, eyes scanning me from head to toe as if she is searching for contraband. Benita, her voice dropped into that register. You know the one, the register that means something dramatic is coming and God cannot help you. Auntie Ngozi, good morning, ma. Is it good morning? Is it? She tilted her head. How far now? What is the update? You are 35 now. Your mates have children in secondary school. I smiled. A professional smile. The kind I have been practicing since I was 28 when this interrogation first began in full force. Auntie, I am fine. God is working. God is working? She snapped her fingers over my head. What is God working on exactly? Is he building the man from scratch? Is he carving him from wood like furniture? My cousin Chisom, who was sitting nearby, eating jollof rice without shame, started laughing into her plate. I sent her a look that said, I will deal with you later. Auntie Ngozi was not done. She never is. You know, she said, sitting down like she had reserved this moment on her calendar for months. Your mother carried you for 9 months. 9 months of suffering. Is this how you want to repay her? By remaining like this? Remaining like what? I wanted to ask. I have a job, I have a flat, I drive my own car, I traveled to Dubai last year, but none of that counts in this country when you are 35 and your ring finger is bare. You could discover the cure for malaria and Auntie Ngozi will still look at you with pity and say, but who will go home with you? I excused myself to go to the kitchen. In the kitchen, I found 3 more aunties discussing me in Igbo like I did not understand Igbo. They were doing the kind of whispering that is louder than normal speaking. That Benita, fine girl, good job, but see her life. She is too selective, said Auntie Comfort. In our time, you just married who God sent and you managed. Managed, as if marriage is a power cut and you bring out your candle and manage. I grabbed a bottle of Fanta, smiled at all 3 of them and walked back to the sitting room with the dignity of a woman who had just heard herself described as a cautionary tale. This is my life. Today is January 15th. I have been apartment hunting for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of calling agents, getting excited, sending money for inspection, then arriving to meet a landlord who looks at me the way customs officers look at unaccompanied luggage. Today's landlord, a short man with a round belly and glasses too small for his face, opened the gate, looked at me, looked behind me, looked back at me and asked, "Where is your husband?" "I am not married, sir." The man sucked his teeth. Actually sucked his teeth at me like I had told him a joke that was not funny. "My property is not for single women," he said, and began closing the gate. I put my hand on the gate. "Sir, with respect, I work in a bank. I earn good money. I will pay 2 years rent up front. You can bring 10 years rent," he said. "Single women bring trouble. Today you are alone. Tomorrow there is a different man coming in and out. Next thing there is fighting in my compound." I stood there in my work clothes with my salary that could pay for his rent 3 times over. And I was being turned away like someone who had arrived at a restaurant without a reservation. "Sir," I said very carefully, "are you telling me that because I am not married, I cannot rent your apartment?" "I am telling you," he said, "that my compound has peace. I want to keep it that way." I walked back to my car, sat down, took 3 deep breaths. Then I called my friend Bimpe and screamed into the phone for 2 full minutes. Bimpe listened patiently, then said, "Benita, I told you, tell them your husband is traveling." "Tell them I have a husband I do not have?" "Yes, now. Which one is bigger, your pride or your accommodation?" This is the country I live in, where a grown woman with a salary, with sense, with no criminal record, cannot find a flat because one landlord decided that singleness is a disease that spreads through walls. I eventually found a flat. Madame Adunola, a 60-year-old widow who sized me up at the gate, looked at my car, looked at my face and said, "You are a serious person. Come in." God bless Madame Adunola. She is the only person who saw me and saw a human being. Today is February 14th.
Valentine's Day in Lagos is a spectator sport. Dear Diary, I have come to understand that Valentine's Day when you are single in Lagos is not a holiday. It is a documentary. You are not a participant. You are a viewer watching everyone else perform happiness while you eat suya alone in your car. My office was an absolute theater today. Sandra from accounts received a bouquet so large it blocked the office door. People gathered around it like it was a burning bush. She was glowing, vibrating. She kept saying, "I don't know where he finds the time," in that voice people use when they very much want you to ask follow-up questions. I said nothing. I chewed my chin-chin and stared at my screen. Then, my manager, Mrs. Badmos, walked past my desk, saw that it was empty of flowers, and looked at me with an expression I can only describe as concerned pity wrapped in prayer. "Benita, don't worry. God has not forgotten you." I had not said I was worried. I had not said anything. I was just sitting at my desk doing my job like a normal person. But somehow my empty desk had become a cry for help. By 2 p.m., 3 different people had walked up to me with the same energy. Colleague 1, "Benita, don't let it bother you. The right one is coming." Colleague 2, "You know what? Some of these married people are not even happy. Count your blessings." Colleague 3, "Have you tried Hinge? My cousin met her husband on Hinge." I did not ask any of you anything. I went home, ordered fried rice from that place on Admiralty Way, watched a full season of a Korean drama, and fell asleep at 11 o'clock. Honestly, fine evening. Today is March 3rd. I need to write this down before I forget a single detail because it was one of the most spectacular things that has ever happened to me in a place of worship. Our church was doing a special prayer session. Prayers for every situation. The pastor was going through different categories: barrenness, financial breakthrough, healing, delayed marriage. I should have left when I heard delayed marriage. Pastor Amaka looked straight into the congregation and said, "Are there any sisters here who are trusting God for a husband? Let them stand up for their miracle." Nobody moved for 3 seconds. Then, slowly, like a woman who had given up resisting gravity, I watched myself being physically pulled to my feet by Sister Ronke beside me, who grabbed my elbow and yanked upwards with the force of someone who had been waiting for this moment. "Sister, stand! Receive your miracle." Before I could process what was happening, I was standing along with about 8 other women ranging from possibly 22 to what appeared to be 70. And the entire congregation turned to look at us with a mixture of sympathy, prayer, and something that looked uncomfortably like entertainment. Pastor Emeka pointed at us. "These women, look at them. God has heard their cry. He is walking." I wanted to say I did not cry. I did not ask. Sister Ronke committed assault. But you cannot say that in church. So I stood there while the congregation prayed over me with a fervor that suggested I was either dying or about to receive an organ transplant. Afterwards, at least 5 church mothers came to lay hands on me individually. One of them took my face in her hands and looked into my eyes with such intensity, I thought she was going to perform an exorcism. "Sister Benita, is there anything in your life blocking your blessings? Any unforgiveness? Any covenant?" "Ma, I am fine." "Because sometimes," she continued, ignoring me completely, "the enemy uses the area of marriage to attack destiny helpers. Have you been praying? Are you fasting?" "I go to the gym 4 times a week and eat salad 3 times a week. If that counts as fasting, then yes." I left church that day feeling like I had survived a minor disaster. I called my friend Kemi to tell her about it and she laughed so hard she dropped her phone. Today is April 19th. My family called a meeting. A whole meeting with agenda items about my life. My mother swore she had nothing to do with it. I do not believe her. My uncle Namdi, who has been married 4 times, 2 of which ended in documented chaos, sat at the head of the table with the authority of a man whose personal life is completely in order and said, "Benita, we are here because we love you. You are 35. Your younger sister Amaka is 29 and already has 2 children. We are concerned." I looked at Amaka. Amaka looked at her plate. Smart woman. Uncle, I said carefully, I am well. I have a job. I have my own job. He waved his hand like I had said something irrelevant. Job is not a husband. Job will not warm your bed. Job will not carry your hand at your parents' burial. My mother made a sound. I could not tell if it was agreement or distress. I tried again. Uncle, I am open to marriage. I am not avoiding it. I just haven't. You are too choosy. This was Auntie BC, who had come all the way from Ibadan specifically for this meeting. Benita, in life, you must manage. All this grammar you are doing. He must be tall. He must have this. He must be that. Life is not a catalogue. I just want someone I'm compatible with. Compatible? She repeated the word like I had said something obscene. Compatible? Is it compatible that is keeping you warm at night? I excused myself to use the bathroom. I sat on the toilet for 7 minutes, staring at the ceiling tiles, doing the breathing exercise my therapist taught me. When I came back, they had moved on to discussing which pastor I should visit for special prayers. There was a list, an actual list with names and addresses. I took the list. I said thank you. I folded it very nicely. I put it in my bag. I have not looked at it since.
Today is May 10th. Something happened at work today that I need to record for legal and historical purposes. We were in a meeting, product strategy meeting. I had prepared a full 15-slide presentation with data and projections. I spoke for 12 minutes. The meeting nodded politely. Then Dotun, who has a wife and 2 children and an opinion that has never once been backed by data, spoke for 4 minutes with nothing but confidence and a suit. The meeting erupted in agreement. After, I mentioned this to my colleague Tola, who is also single, also 30-something, also exhausted. It's not even about gender, Tola said, stirring her coffee with the energy of someone who had accepted certain universal injustices. It's about the married ones. Once you have a wife, a child, a family, people think you are serious, settled. Your opinion has weight. We are just floating. She is right, I have noticed. At team dinners, when married colleagues talk about things, even things that have nothing to do with marriage, people lean in. There is an authority to them, a wholeness that society has rubber stamped. Me, I will speak and someone will say, Benita, but wait till you have children, you will understand. What will I understand? I presented a full data model. What do children have to do with quarterly projections? Last week, my colleague Femi's wife came to the office. Femi's wife is a lovely woman, but she has never worked in finance a day in her life. Someone asked her opinion on our pension structure, and she gave a 2-sentence answer that was frankly incorrect. Everyone nodded like she had solved a theorem. I sat there with my degree, my professional certification, my 7 years of experience, smiling like a woman who was not quietly losing her mind. Today is June 25th. Dear Diary, I need to talk about Chidima. Chidima and I have been friends since SS2. We used to do everything together. Eat out, go to the market, gossip, cry, laugh. When she got married 4 years ago, I was her chief bridesmaid. I danced at her wedding until my shoes broke. For the first year, things were normal. Then slowly, like water wearing away at stone, Chidima started disappearing. Calls unreturned, plans cancelled at the last minute. When I finally got her on the phone after 2 weeks, she sounded distracted, like she was having the conversation from inside a cupboard. Chidi, is everything okay? Did I do something? Silence. Benita, Charles feels like she stopped. Charles feels like what? Another silence. The kind that costs people friendships. He thinks that you are a bit of he used the word an influence. I sat down slowly. An influence? He says you're always talking about independence and doing what makes you happy, and he thinks it might be giving me ideas. I held the phone for a long time. Giving you ideas? I repeated. Ideas about freedom and options, and he just doesn't want Chidima. My voice was very calm. Too calm. The way Lagos is at 4 a.m. Peaceful but dangerous. Your husband is afraid that I, a single woman, am going to corrupt your marriage by existing. Chidima, it's not, am I a spiritual attack? Am I a principality? Is your husband casting and binding me? She laughed, a small guilty laugh. He means well, she said. He just feels threatened when what? When you have a friend who has her own salary and her own flat and her own opinions, that is a threat to your marriage? She went quiet again. I told her I loved her. Because I do.
But I also told her that any man who felt threatened by her having a fully functional, independent friend was not protecting her. He was shrinking her. And she needed to think carefully about that.
She said she would call me back. That was 2 months ago. She has not called back. I still think about Chidima. I hope she is okay. I hope she is not disappearing. Today is August 4th. My colleague Shade got married. Full Lagos wedding. Eco Hotel. A swebi that cost 45,000 naira per yard. Food was excellent, I will not lie, but the wedding had 2 separate moments that I need to document. Moment 1. During the reception, the MC, a man who clearly enjoyed his own voice more than any other person in the room, decided to do a segment called Who is Next? He pointed his microphone at the single women in the room and made us stand up one by one for applause, for prayers, for the entire hall to look at us with the collective energy of people watching a documentary about endangered animals. When he got to me, he said, and I am quoting directly, this one, fine woman, see her. God, we are calling her name tonight. By this time next year, she will not be standing alone. The crowd whooped. I smiled. I have done extensive practice smile. But inside, I was cataloging every single detail for the diary. Moment 2. At the table, an older woman I had never seen before in my life sat next to me, held my hand and said, "You know what your problem is? You are too ambitious. Men are intimidated by successful women." I chewed my small chops. "Tone yourself down small," she advised. "Men want to feel needed. What is the point of a woman who has everything? What does a man come to give?" "Love," I suggested. She laughed like I had said something endearing but ultimately foolish. "Love," she repeated, patting my hand. "You are still young. You will learn." I am 35. By most international standards, that is not young. But in Nigerian wedding reception mathematics, I am apparently still in primary school. Today is September 12th. My mother called me at 6:30 in the morning. Not because something was wrong, she just wanted to have the conversation again. The main conversation. The one about my life. "Benita, Mama, it is 6:30. I am not sleeping well. How can I sleep when you are not settled?" I moved to a sitting position in my bed and prepared myself. "Ma, I am settled. I have a job, a home. Do you know that Mama Chibuzo's daughter, the small one, Blessing, she just had her second child and she's 27. Good for Blessing. Good for Blessing," Mama repeated, as if I had said something tragic. "Anita, I want to carry grandchildren before I die. Is that too much?" "Mama, you are 58. 58 is not young. My legs are giving me trouble. My blood pressure." Mama, my voice was quiet. Genuinely quiet. Not the professional quiet. The real one. "I hear you. I do. I want to get married too. I want someone to come home to. I want children who look like me and fight with me and eat my food. I want that too. But I cannot manufacture a person, Mama. I cannot produce someone from nowhere." There was a long silence. "I know," she said finally. And for once, she just sounded like my mother. Tired, worried, human. "I know, my daughter. I just miss you. I'll come home next weekend," I said. "Come with cooking oil. The one near me has increased price." I laughed. She laughed. And that was enough for that morning.
Today is October 29th. I need to write about the hushing incident while my blood pressure is still elevated enough to do it justice. We were at Susan's house. A group of us, old friends, some married, some not. We were talking about Priya's marriage to her husband Kunle, which everyone in the room knew was in various stages of architectural collapse. There had been rumors, there had been stories. Even Priya was sitting with the tight face of someone holding in a scream. I was saying, carefully, with love, with concern, "Priya, babe, you deserve to be happy. You know that, right? Whatever decision you make." And then Folake, who has been married for 8 years, held up her hand and looked at me and said, "Benita, with all due respect, you don't understand marriage. You have never been married. So maybe this particular conversation,
I am simply saying that she deserves. You are saying things that sound good but come from a place of not knowing, for like I said, not unkindly, which almost made it worse. When you are married, you will understand that it is not simple. You will understand sacrifice and compromise. Until then what? I asked. I should be quiet. My opinion about my friend's happiness is invalid because I have not signed a certificate. The room went a little cold. Priya squeezed my hand under the table. She did not speak up. She could not. She was too busy managing her own situation. I poured myself more juice. I am not sure which is lonelier, the state of being single in Lagos, or being told that your decades of human experience, your eyes, your empathy, your basic reading of a situation, all of it is void until a man has agreed to live with you. I said nothing else for the rest of that evening, but I thought many things. I thought them loudly in several languages. Today is November 11th. I supervise 3 junior staff at the bank. Today, one of them, Titi, who is 24 and newly engaged and incandescent with it, made me someone's cautionary tale to my face. She did not mean harm. I genuinely believe she did not mean harm. That is the most painful part. We were having lunch. Someone was talking about career plans, and one of the younger girls, Sola, said she was thinking of focusing on work for a few more years before settling down. And Titi, with the clarity and confidence of someone who has never experienced consequence, looked directly at me and said, Sola, don't wait too long though, because sometimes you focus, and then balance is important. I was sitting right there. I was eating my jollof rice right there. I looked at Titi. Titi looked at me, and I watched her realize in real time what she had just done. Sister Benita, I didn't mean it's fine, Titi. I just meant it's fine. The table went quiet. I finished my rice. I went back to my office. I closed my door and I sat very still for 3 minutes, doing the breathing exercise, and then I opened my laptop and I worked for the rest of the day with the intensity of a woman who had converted embarrassment directly into productivity. But diary, I will be honest here, when no one can hear me except you, that one stung. Being used as an example, standing right there in the room as the thing someone says don't end up like, as if my life is a failure, as if everything I have built and become and survived is reduced to the fact that I have not yet had a man choose me. I drove home and I cried a small bit. Not a lot, just enough. Then I ordered peppered fish, turned on my AC and watched YouTube until I felt normal again. Today is December 4th. His name is Tokumbo. I don't know how to write this without sounding like I have made the whole thing up. I met him at a book fair, not at a church program where someone's auntie orchestrated a divine meeting, not on a dating app where his first message was a picture of his car, not at a wedding where someone's mother found us both at the single table and decided to play God.
A book fair in Ikoyi on a Saturday afternoon, when I had told myself I deserved one quiet, beautiful afternoon with no agenda except books and suya. He was standing at the African literature section. I reached for a book next to his elbow and he stepped back immediately, said sorry, and then looked at what I had picked. That one is excellent, he said, not to flirt, just to say it. I know, I said. I've read it twice. Then why are you picking it up again? Because the third time is different, I said. You notice things you missed. He looked at me for a moment like that answer had meant something to him. We talked for 20 minutes about books, then 40 minutes about books and Lagos and food and travel. Then he bought suya from the stand outside and we sat on the steps and talked for another hour without either of us checking our phones once. His name is Tokumbo Adeyemi. He's 39. He is a civil engineer. He has a calm way of listening that made me feel for the first time in I cannot tell you how long, like what I was saying was genuinely interesting to another human being. Not interesting in the way that people listen when they are waiting for their turn to talk. Interesting in the way that makes them lean forward. Before he left, he asked for my number with zero performance. Just, can I call you? I'd like to continue this conversation. Not, I'd like to see you again with the look. Just, I want to continue this conversation. Like I was worth continuing. I gave him my number. I walked back to my car and sat inside it for a full 5 minutes before starting the engine. Today is December 30th. 3 weeks in. He calls
every day. Not the long, exhausting calls of someone proving something. Short calls sometimes. I'm at the site. Just wanted to check if you ate. Medium calls where we laugh about things. Long calls on weekends where we end up talking until one of us is nearly asleep. He remembered that I mentioned, in passing, that I don't like coriander 3 weeks ago in passing. And when he took me to dinner last week, he had already told the restaurant. I stared at my food for a second too long and he noticed. You okay? You remembered the coriander thing? He looked confused. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Because nobody remembers the coriander thing, Tokumbo. Because I have spent 7 years dating men in this city who could not remember my middle name after 3 months. Because I once dated someone who forgot my birthday twice and then blamed it on work stress. Because the bar has been so thoroughly underground that a man simply paying attention has reduced me to staring at my food like someone who has witnessed a miracle. I did not say all of this. I said, "Thank you." He smiled and refilled my water glass. We are not rushing. There is no rushing. He is not performing urgency, and I am not performing patience. We are just talking, knowing each other, going slowly enough to see clearly. And diary, this is the part that is almost too good to write. He asked me, genuinely asked me about my plans. Not, what are you looking for in a man? Not, when do you want to get married? He asked, what does your ideal life look like 5 years from now? What would make you genuinely satisfied? Nobody has ever asked me that. Not one person in 35 years of existing in Lagos has asked me what I want. They have asked when I will be ready, what I am waiting for, why I am too picky, but never, what do you actually want from this one life you have? I talked for 20 minutes. He listened to every word. Today is January 15th. The following year. He proposed in the kitchen. I know. It is not the rooftop with the fairy lights and the photographer hiding in the bushes. It is not the Maldives trip with the ring in the champagne glass, which by the way is a choking hazard. It was the kitchen of my apartment on a Sunday evening while I was making pepper soup and he was sitting on the counter talking to me about absolutely nothing important. And then he said, Benita. Something about how he said it. I turned around. He was holding a ring box. Not down on one knee yet, just holding it, looking at me with the expression of a man who has made a decision and is certain about it. No performance, no crowd, just him and me and my pepper soup bubbling on the stove. I don't have a speech, he said. I just know that the version of me that goes home to you is better than every version that didn't. And I want to spend a very long time proving that to you. I started crying before he even got down on one knee. Ugly crying, the kind with sound, the kind that has nothing to do with looking pretty. He laughed, the warm, unbothered laugh of a man who was not surprised by this, and he went down on one knee and he asked me, and I said yes, loudly, possibly too loudly. Today is April 27th. There is something deeply, trically satisfying about what happened when the engagement was announced. The same Auntie Ngozi who had been asking how far now at every Christmas and New Year since I was 28. This woman called me the day after the announcement and said, her voice warm and proud as sunrise, I knew it. I always told everyone Benita is a queen. When God does it, he does it well. I held the phone very still. Auntie Ngozi, I said quietly, you told everyone at New Year that I was too picky and that my mates had children in secondary school. Brief silence. That is not, Benita, that is not what I said. I was encouraging you. I was saying, you said God was building my husband from wood. I was praying. That was a prayer. Benita, you know how I love you. I let her talk. I let her completely rewrite history in real time. It was actually quite impressive. The speed at which people can re-narrate their own behavior when the situation changes. It should be an Olympic sport. Nigeria would win gold every 4 years. Auntie BC, who told me to tone myself down because men find successful women intimidating, sent me a voice note that was 47 seconds long and entirely congratulatory. No acknowledgement of previous statements, just pure unrevised celebration. The church mothers who prayed over me in a lane of hand circle called to say we knew God would answer, we believed with you. The landlord who turned me away, I obviously did not tell him, but I thought about him. The junior colleague, Titi, sent me a congratulations message with 7 flower emojis and a prayer hands. I responded with a single smiley face. Proportional. And my manager, Mrs. Badmos, who told me on Valentine's Day that God had not forgotten me, came to my office personally, sat down and said with complete sincerity, your breakthrough encourages all of us. I wanted to ask, Encourages you how? What were you doing with your pity? What was that energy? Was it encouragement? Because it did not feel like encouragement. It felt like a slow, warm rain of condensation that I had to carry an invisible umbrella against for 7 years. But I just said thank you because I had won. Not over them, over the narrative. The story that said I was incomplete. The story that said I was failing. The story that I had carried like a stone on my back through every Christmas gathering, every wedding, every office lunch, every family meeting. I had not become less. I had become exactly what I always was, enough. And now there was a man who could see it. And somehow, that was the only thing that made Lagos believe it too. That is the part I'm still sitting with. The complicated part. Today is July 21st, my wedding day. The wedding was on a Saturday in July. I wore a bridal ivory dress that I had chosen entirely by myself with no committee. My mother cried from the moment she woke up and did not stop until the reception was over. My father, my quiet, gentle father, who had never once asked me when I was getting married, who had only ever asked me if I was happy. He held my hand before we walked in and said, "You chose well, Benita. He's a good man." And then he smiled, like someone who had been right about something for a long time. Tokumbo was at the altar when I walked in, and I want to record this precisely. He did not look at the door when the music started. He was talking quietly to his best man, mid-sentence, and then something made him turn. And when he saw me, his entire face changed, the way a room changes when you open a window. Complete, instant, like something being let in. He forgot to close his mouth for a second. His best man nudged him. The congregation laughed, and I walked towards him, feeling like myself, fully, completely, without reduction, without apology, myself. 2 months after the wedding, Folake came to my house. Folake, who had hushed me at Ngozi's gathering, who had told me I didn't understand marriage. She came unannounced on a Wednesday evening. I opened the door and she was standing there, looking like a person who had been carrying something heavy for a long time and had finally decided to put it down. I let her in. I made tea. We sat in the living room and she looked around at Tokumbo's engineering book stacked next to mine, at the quiet of the house, at the way I sat in my own space. And she said, "I am sorry for that day at Ngozi's house when I told you to be quiet." I waited. She continued, "I said you didn't understand marriage, but the truth is, the one who didn't understand was I. Because what you were saying to Priye, that she deserved to be happy, I couldn't hear it. Because if she deserved to be happy, then maybe I deserved to be happy. And if I was allowed to want that, then I had to look at my own marriage and see it clearly." We were quiet for a while. "How is Somto?" I asked carefully. She smiled, but it was the thin kind. "We're managing." Managing. The word Auntie Comfort had used, as if marriage was a power cut and you just bring out your candle. "You don't have to manage, Fonake," I said gently. She nodded slowly, like she was hearing it for the first time in a way she could receive it. Before she left, she hugged me for a long time at the door. Then she looked at me and said, "You did well, Benita. I mean that, not just the wedding, the whole thing, the years. You did well." I thanked her. I meant it. Dear diary, it is 1 year since I got married. I want to write something honest. Not the Instagram version. Not the "he is my best friend and every day is magical." The real version. The real version is this. Being loved by a good person is quieter than anyone told me it would be. It is not constant grand gestures. It is not roses every Friday. It is the Tuesday night when I am anxious about a presentation and he sits with me while I rehearse it, asking questions so I know my material from every angle. It is the morning he told me, "I am proud of you. Not because of what you achieve, just because of who you are." I almost did not know what to do with that. I have been fighting to justify my worth against invisible judges for so long that a compliment with no conditions attached felt like hearing a song in a language you always understood, but nobody ever spoke to you in. We fight, of course we fight. We are two adults with opinions who live in the same flat. Last month, we had a spectacular argument about whether the fish pepper soup needed more uziza leaves. A disagreement that somehow became a large conversation about listening and assumptions and how we each learned to argue in our families. We talked for 2 hours. We didn't sleep until we understood each other. That is what they don't tell you. Not just the kindness, the repair, the willingness to come back to the table. Chidima called, by the way, 3 months after the wedding. Her marriage to Chibuzo did not survive the year. She was at her mother's house, starting over. She called me because she did not know who else to call. I talked to her for 2 hours. I did not say I told you so. What would be the point? She was already carrying enough. We're friends again, slowly, carefully. carefully. She's learning what it looks like to want things for herself. I think she's going to be fine. Dear Diary, it is the last day of the year. I am 37 now. I am sitting in my living room. Our living room, with Tokumbo asleep on the couch behind me, snoring lightly, his engineering blueprints scattered on the coffee table because he fell asleep studying them. The television is on something neither of us was watching. I am thinking about Benita at 35. Single, brilliant, exhausted, carrying every verdict Lagos had given her like weight in her pockets, being used as a cautionary tale in her own presence, being prayed over in church like an emergency, being turned away from apartments, being hushed in conversations, having her opinion expire the moment it left her mouth, having her friends pulled away by men who were afraid of her freedom. I want to find that Benita and tell her something. I want to tell her, you were never incomplete. You were never the problem. You were a whole, fully formed, magnificent human being at every single point in this story, including the Christmas dinners with Auntie Ngozi, including the Valentine's disc with no flowers, including the meeting where Dotton's mediocre confidence outweighed your meticulous data, including every landlord's gate. The man who came was not a reward for surviving. He was not a certificate of your worth. He was simply a person lucky enough to have clear eyes. You were the crown, Benita. You were just waiting for someone worthy of wearing you. From behind me, Tokumba stares, shifts, then without waking fully, reaches out and settles his hand on my shoulder. A reflex, unconscious, the quiet language of someone who, even in sleep, wants to know you are there. I place my hand over his. Lagos is loud outside. It always is. But in this room, in this quiet, there is no verdict pending. There is just this, just us. And it is, finally, completely, extravagantly enough. Benita Okafor Adeyemi, December 31st, 37, settled.